welcome everyone to another video. This is one of my most requested videos, and to be honest, I put it up for a couple of reasons. So today I want to share my record collection with you. All the vinyls that I have a bunch up here. This thing is pretty full, and then I have my singles in like this little vintage magazine holder from my grandma. Yeah, and today I want to share all of these with you. So I put this video up because I was a little afraid. I know people are very opinionated when it comes to records and people collecting them and other people's collections, and because I don't have like a rare record collection or anything, I think I have like a pretty nicely sorted one, or like at least for my taste I have a lot of things that I really love on vinyl. But I have to be honest, I'm not like a professional record collector or anything. So if you're looking for like very special edition kind of records, besides one or two, I don't really have that. But I think I have a very solid collection of 60s and 70s records. So if you want to see all of that, know a little more about my taste in music and also my love for these records, keep on watching. I'm not gonna do this in any particular order because I don't really organize my records by anything. Up here are just the recently played ones, and then every now and then I put these down there and vice versa. So maybe we should just start with the singles. Is that something, or is that uninteresting? Let's do the singles and just be quick about it. I love to pick up singles in secondhand and vintage shops because they're usually really inexpensive. I feel like some of these might have a price. This one was $5. But I'm a big fan of the Moody Blues. I love how their 60s music is so unique. It's not as upbeat as a lot of the things you get to hear. I'm a big fan, and this is Nights in White Satin, and then Cities is the B-side. And I really love this. It's a great record, and I also love the design of it. This is the original Decca pressing for Germany, and yeah, I spin this quite often actually, because Nights in White Satin is definitely one of my favorite songs, especially on the evening to kind of unwind to. Next up we have Suzi Quatro. I'm such a big Suzi Quatro fan. I think she made such amazing music, and I love how she did like all these different things. Like Stumbling In is quite different to this record. This is 48 Crash. It has 48 Crash on the A side and Little Bitch Blue on the B side. This one is in like a little not so nice condition, to be quite honest, but it was only $2 and I just really liked it. A lot of the records, if you buy them pre-used, will also have like some signing, and I think this is from back when people used to trade records, so they just put their name. I have some that are like for my family and from other collections, and they definitely sometimes have that too. Next up I have Chiquita and Love Light, an ABBA record. ABBA is very close connected to my dad. I will talk about him with a few records actually, because he kind of like inspired a lot of my music. Love. This one has been through it, like I need to re-glue it. It's like falling out on all the sides. I think I even might have gotten this for free. I don't know, but I really like it. I don't spin this one this often, to be honest, but Chiquita generally is a good song, and I think it's my dad's favorite ABBA song, so it always reminds me of him. This one I use a lot, but not in the way it is intended to. I actually have a vintage desk to work on, and my mouse doesn't pick up on the super shiny surface, so I use this as a little mouse pad, but it is the King Supersonic Rocket Ship, and the B-side is You Don't Know My Name. This is such a good record, like the full record. I listened to the album and the LP quite a bit. I love the Kinks. I don't know why I've never bought a Kinks record, to be quite honest. I usually just buy whatever I come across. I very rarely targeted buy records. I sometimes do, and these definitely are a little more special to me. But if I ever come across a King's record, I'll definitely get it. Maybe I will go out and search for one, but for now I have this and I really love it. Next up, the Apple Studio recording. George Harrison, My Sweet Lord, and Isn't It a Pity. George Harrison is one of my favorite musicians, and this is also an original pressing with the iconic apple in the middle. I love All Things Must Pass. Like, the entire LP is so good. I don't have it, but that's definitely one of the albums I stream the most, because I do stream a lot too. I have my record set up here. The boxes I use are actually from my uncle from the 70s. He gave them on to my dad, his little brother, and then when my dad upgraded his record play setup, I got these when I was like 18. I love them. They're still great. They still sound very good. Next up is CCR, Green River and Commotion. I don't think I have to say a lot about these because it's going to be very long if I say something for every record, so good one too. If I don't say anything, just assume I love it. This one I remember picking up because I mean I obviously know Capitol Records, but I was like a little confused because of the packaging. It almost looks like a demo, and I don't even know if this record was originally in this packaging. Just let me know if anyone knows something about this. I have always been curious if this might have been a demo given to someone, just because it is packed rather weirdly. But this is God Only Knows by the Beach Boys, and then the other side is Wouldn't It Be Nice, 1966 pressing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I really like the Beach Boys. I love how carefree it is, and this is a record my son enjoys a lot. Which, talking about my son, we have quite a collection of children's records. If you want to see them, let me know, but they're down in my son's room. He has an old record player, Crosley. Wouldn't recommend you to spin any more valuable records on that, and I wouldn't do that. But he's not even a year old, and I'm a little afraid to put like a full setup in his room. So we just have this. We play children's songs and then also like little bedtime stories and everything on it. He really loves it. And then the last single that I have is Smokey, Living Next Door to Alice, and the B-side is Run to You. Not a lot to say about this, honestly, but what I really love about these singles is that it always has like a little bit of advertisement on the back. So this one's obviously advertising Midnight Coffee, the LP by Smokey, and then The Arrows and Man to Man by Hot Chocolate. That's actually kind of cool. That's a good selection. Okay, maybe keeping it going with these up here. It's a classic, Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. This is also falling apart, you can definitely tell. I love the backside, the little photo shoot on this, and I honestly don't think I have to say a lot about this because I think Fleetwood Mac, it's not even like they're having a comeback. I think Fleetwood Mac is just a band that is widely known. Everyone knows them. But my favorite track on here is You Make Loving Fun. I think You Make Loving Fun is probably my all-time favorite Fleetwood Mac song. It is just so good, but everything they made is phenomenal. I've been reading a lot about Fleetwood Mac, and they're like dynamic as a band. Obviously, I feel like when Daisy Jones and the Six came out, a lot of people talked about it, but it is very interesting that these people came together and made this record that is so perfect and so timeless because it is just played over and over again. And I feel like this is a record that I truly never get tired of spinning. This one is actually quite the interesting pressing. Let me see, because it has another one that belongs with it. Okay, I think I need to dive into my cabinet real quick. I'm just gonna put all of these out and up here, and then we can talk about these in a little. So this is Bob Dylan's 7th studio album, Blonde on Blonde, which was released in, I believe, June of 1966. And the interesting thing about this is that this is an LP, but I have a double LP. So this is not the same. You can see it has like volume 1 and then volume 2 and a little bit of discoloration, which I'm gonna get into like in a little bit. And this has quite the story. So my mom picked this up in Hungary, I believe, in a record store. However, back here, everything is in German, and it says that it was printed in the Netherlands. And I always wondered why this isn't an LP, but rather 2 albums, because I know you can get it as an LP. And so I did some research, and from what I could tell, back when this was released in '66, LPs were kind of new, and record companies were afraid that younger kids weren't able to afford these LPs, and so they made them into 2 albums. So if you buy the LP, this is like the inside, like you would kind of open it like this is what it would look like. But because they wanted this to be a little more accessible for younger kids or just people who didn't have the money in general, they also released versions like this. And I think this isn't like rare in particular or anything, but it is definitely something that is a tale of the time, I guess, because I think this isn't something that is really done anymore. So I'm really, really glad that I have this. Next up, I got a bunch of records for my birthday, not this year but last year, from my boyfriend's dad. They didn't really ever spin their records, and when I met my boyfriend and his dad for the first time, we really bonded over music. He loves a lot of 60s and 70s music too, but they never really had them playing anymore, and so he ended up gifting me a whole lot of his collection, basically all the records that survived. And this was one of them. He bought them at the Lerche, which is quite funny. People from Germany, especially southern Germany, might know this because even my dad, who wasn't from like the same city, used to drive there because of their huge record selection. So this definitely was something for people born in like the late 60s going into the 70s. This isn't like a special record, it's a big hit, but I love this photo that's like on top and also the back set. I think it's a very nicely designed sleeve. This has Painted Black, Satisfaction, Get Off My Cloud, Lady Jane, all the big hits. It's a great record. Honestly, if you're ever in the mood for some very stone, very popular classic hits, this is the one that we spin. Next up is the Beatles. I feel like the Beatles are the artist with the most records. Like even the next couple ones coming here are the Beatles. So we have Help, and then the Beatles for Sale, and Hey Jude, just some classics. I have some more Beatles albums that we will probably talk about in a little bit. When it comes to the Beatles, I have the hardest time choosing like a favorite album, even like a favorite song. It is so hard. I love Something, but I also love Here, There, and Everywhere. Oh, there's so many good songs. Recently I've been listening a lot to She Came Through the Bathroom Window. What a phenomenal song. Dear Prudence. There are just so many good ones. Penny Lane, A Day in the Life. Yeah, I could never choose, but I have a pretty decent Beatles record collection. Next up, Parallel Lines by Blondie. I love Blondie. Honestly, this is such a cool record and it is so timeless. Tell me that this couldn't be like a record right now. I love the design of this record in general, but I mean, obviously it's more about the music. This one also still has a price tag. It was 10 bucks. I bought them all pre-used as set. My favorite one on this record is probably Pretty Baby. It's such a cool song. I think it is very underrated, and I love records that have all the lyrics. For me, someone who didn't grow up speaking English, like English is not my first language, sometimes when I hear people singing, I have a hard time understanding the words. And I just love when I can go straight to the record and read the lyrics and I don't have to Google or do anything like that. So what a phenomenal album. What an amazing woman Debbie Harry is, honestly. We have Simon and Garfunkel in the mix next. I really like Simon and Garfunkel. My mom used to say that when she was in school, listening to Simon and Garfunkel wasn't cool, but she did. This must have been in like the 70s and 80s. And she always thought it was funny that I fell in love with Simon and Garfunkel, but I did, and I think this is like the kind of music that I love to listen to in the morning. I think that there's like music, for me at least, that I love in the morning or in the evening, depending on my mood. But waking up with Simon and Garfunkel is the best. Usually my son and I, we come up here, we put on some Simon and Garfunkel in the morning and the day is good. So this is also just the greatest hits kind of record. It has my two favorite tracks, The Boxer and America, and a bunch more. For Emily, Whenever I May Find Her is also such a dreamy song. Yeah, we actually spent this morning, I think. So this is one that we always come back to. This is the only record, I believe, and the only thing actually that I ever bought off of an eBay auction. This is an original pressing of Queen's Sheer Heart Attack. I have such a love for Queen, honestly. So this is like a special kind of pressing, at least for me. It is falling apart, unfortunately, but I'm just a little afraid to glue it because I don't want the glue to leave like any residue or anything. This is what like the record sleeve looks like. It's such an amazing album. I don't think that I have to talk a lot about like the album's music wise, but if you don't know anything about Queen, if you for some reason have never heard about them, This is an album I recommend you to listen to if you like the more harder rock kind of Queen. I feel like later on it definitely got a little more settled, or even a little more, like if you've only ever listened to Bohemian Rhapsody, this isn't what you might expect they started out doing. My favorite one on here is probably Brighton Rock, but overall it's just a great record. This one I am just so careful with because it is so special to me. So it has a little sleeve. Not all of my records have a sleeve because I think most of these aren't as like collectible. So I think I talked about it before. Basically most of these records I got by family members or I bought pre-used, and I know most of them, like this one is a more special one, but I also have a bunch of greatest hits records, and I feel like people generally talk down on those records. They're like, this isn't as curated, and I get that, but also if you don't have a lot of money and you just want to get into the artist, don't be afraid to buy a greatest hits record because there's nothing wrong with it. And honestly, sometimes it is good to just be able to listen to a full selection. I know that most artists put a lot of thought into the way that they present their records and the way that they make up the set list and everything, and I really admire that. This is like one of the things that still makes me love listening to vinyls, that you can like listen in the track list, and I know you can do that too with streaming. And while I really love that, I think you shouldn't look down on these like sample kind of records that have the greatest hits, because honestly there's nothing wrong with buying these. Sometimes you just want to have all the greatest hits, and I get that. So buy whatever record you want, there's no shame. Next up, Between the Buttons, another one of these records with the most amazing covers. Honestly, I think the Rolling Stones have one of my favorite like cover designs of the 60s and 70s in general. Between the Buttons, it has a little comic in the back, which I think is so cool. I think my favorite song on here, it's so hard. Backstreet Girl is incredible. Something Happened to Me Yesterday. Miss Amanda Jones is one that I really love. Yeah, a great record. There's not a lot to say about this other than the fact that it is amazing. Oh, we're keeping it going with this record that I know is very controversial. This is like the Rolling Stones equivalent to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and I like the Sgt. Pepper Lonely Heart Club Band from the Beatles. It is a record that both the Rolling Stones and fans aren't really sure if they like it. I love it. First of all, the making of this is absolutely insane. Secondly, I think their Satanic Majesty Request has some of the best tracks, honestly. I think some of the tracks on here are absolutely amazing, and I truly don't know why so many people don't like this record. This has my, I think, all-time favorite Rolling Stones song, which is She's a Rainbow. So that's on here, and then The Lantern is on here. Sing This All Together, 2000 Man. It's a good record, honestly. This is one that I really love to listen from, like from the first song to the last one, completely through. It is just so amazing. Such a dreamy record. Next up is another one of these like sampler records. Oh, there are two actually. This is Rock Giants, but it is specifically for Janis Joplin. This one is also for My Boyfriend's Dad. It has Me and Bobby McGee, Cosmic Blue, Mercedes-Benz, which is probably my favorite of hers. I know it's like a boring answer, but I just love her voice. It is so good. Summertime, all the classics. Try. I have always had a connection with Janis Joplin's music. She was born the same day I was born, and I just love her music. I think it was so cool that she never kind of tried to fit in. She just did her thing. Her voice is one of the most incredible voices I've ever heard, like especially talking about the 60s and 70s women. I have a few more records by women. One person that I really would love to have a record of but don't have is the Carpenters, because I love Karen Carpenter's voice too. But honestly, Janis Joplin, I could listen to her forever. I love that raspy voice of hers. Next up, I have the original Broadway cast recording of Hair. Hair is this really cool 60s Broadway play. If you don't know it, it's about this young guy who is supposed to join the army, but then while he goes through Central Park in New York, meets a bunch of hippies. It is so good. And honestly, the songs on here are absolutely amazing. Of course, this is one that you should listen to front to back as well. There's also a movie. If you just want to know a little more about 60s counterculture and want to listen to something that I would say is a very interesting piece of history, listen and watch Hair. It is such a good play, honestly. I have a really big love for Broadway and plays in general. I used to be in musical theater for quite a long time. And so yeah, Hair is definitely one of my favorite plays. Next up, the Patti Smith group. This is Wave. I love this record. This is one that I love to listen to in the morning or in the evening in particular. This is actually quite the cool pressing because it has this really cool inlay that it comes with. A little handwritten note, a bunch of pictures. Patti Smith is one of these women that I just find to be so not only interesting but also inspiring. Like, her music is the kind of music I love to listen to when I really want to get inspired. She is so amazing. Her life story is just so wonderful. Basically, she had this dream of making art, not even music in particular, but art, and she ended up just going to New York with no money, nothing at all, and just decided that she really needs to make it. And she says that also kind of like the pressure of making money and having to survive what made her make it. Patti Smith is also an artist. I'd love, love, love to see live. My dad had the chance, and yeah, with all of these artists, obviously because I'm not living like in the States or England, they don't tour Germany that often. Germany isn't like a bad concert country. We have a bunch of concerts, but obviously bands don't come over here as often as they play in the States. So I really hope that I one day have the chance to listen to her amazing voice live. Next up is David Bowie, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. What an incredible album. What a force of an album this is. This too has like a nice little inlay. You could put the record in here, but I have it in the other stocking. It has all the lyrics, which as said is something I greatly admire. This is historically such an interesting record. If you want to know a little more about this, I made this series on here where I got ready for concerts I wish I could have attended, and I actually made an episode about this record. So I'm just gonna link that here for you. So if you want to know a little more about this insane record and David Bowie in general, make sure to check that out. Oh, next up, this is one of the albums that I have that aren't 60s and 70s, Greta Van Fleet, a modern band that I greatly admire. I just saw them in concert a couple of months ago in November actually. This is their latest album. I got this gifted for my birthday this year by my boyfriend's parents. I think the artwork in this is just so stunning. I love when you're kind of like getting the full photo shoot in the record as well. I know it's about the music, but I just admire and appreciate it if the records have like a little something to look at to kind of like set the mood for the music that you're about to listen to. So honestly, the Starcatcher album, this one took me a little moment to listen to because I think it is a little different to the music Greta Van Fleet used to make prior to this, which I don't know if it's like a permanent shift or they just wanted to try something with this record. Nonetheless, it is absolutely phenomenal. What an insanely amazing record. And this is a clear record, which is something that I love. I do believe this is my only clear record, but look at this. Isn't it so cool? Yeah, this is definitely one we spin quite often too, especially after going to that concert. This is a record that we both really enjoy. Judging by my record setup with this amazing Jim Morrison picture up here, you probably already guessed I'm a big fan of The Doors. I have the Doors record, which one of my pet peeves when getting like records or buying records is when they have a sticker on top. So this, and it's like an on sale kind of sticker, and I don't get why they do this because you can't remove it without like ripping it, which annoys me so much. This too I got gifted by my boyfriend's dad. This is their debut album. What a phenomenal debut, honestly. Yeah, it has all the classics. Break On Through, Soul Kitchen, Crystal Ship, which I really love, Light My Fire, The End. It's a great record. I feel like this is a record too that has been talked about a lot. I love the Doors, especially at night, and it's something that I really love to listen to while being creative or like closing my eyes and dreaming away. My camera needed a little battery change, so I'm taking some sips of my coffee before we continue. I thrifted this really cool mug. Apparently I think it's like a Canadian place that was popular in the 70s. I have no clue how this ended up in a countryside thrift store in Germany, but it's a great mug. I love how thick it is. That's kind of cool. Anyways, what I wanted to say about the Doors. I recently read a lot about Nico, the singer of the Velvet Underground, for like something else that I'm working on, and she met Jim Morrison and they actually like had a brief little affair and like a really interesting weekend getaway in the desert, and she talked so appreciating and so passionate about Jim Morrison and the way that he thought, and Jim Morrison was the one who got Nico into singing. If you didn't know this, she had this passion of becoming a singer, but she didn't know what to do. And then she said that Jim Morrison just looked at her and he was like, I allow you to be a singer. You can be a singer, and it really empowered her apparently. So yeah, if you want to know how Nico became a singer, it was all thanks to Mr. Jim Morrison, which I think is quite cool. We actually forgot to talk about this. This one is a record, another one of these like classic hits, top 40 classic rock. This is top 40 rock classics. This is a late 80s record, definitely something that my boyfriend loves more than I do. It has Eye of the Tiger, but it also has Black Sabbath, Paranoid, More Than the Feeling by Boston. One of my all-time favorite songs, I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick. What an insanely good song that is. This is like a song, if I need some energy, I will listen to that. If I need to get things done, this is a good song to get it done to. It has Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, which obviously Eric Clapton, strange guy, but his music, oh, Eric Clapton is one of my all-time favorite musicians. His music is just so heavenly. All Night Long by Rainbow. So even though these rock classic records look pretty pathetic, they usually have good songs, honestly. Another song that I feel like people are kind of sleeping on, it's also 8.5 minutes long, Paradise by the Dashboard Light by Meatloaf. What a dreamy song. I love the metaphor, and the entire songwriting is so good. If you haven't listened to that yet, do it. It's a great, great song. Next up, Joan Baez. I love her. Her music is so melodic. It is so beautiful. It's something else, again, something that I just love to listen to unwind. This was released in 1965. It was Joan's 6th studio album. A lot of the songs on here, like Daddy, You've Been on My Mind, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, are Bob Dylan songs. There's Woody Guthrie, there's Colors by Donovan. And this was greatly inspired from her time with Bob Dylan, which I thought was so interesting. Bob Dylan also played a role in Nico's life, just circling back to that for a second. But Bob Dylan was really nice to her. He said he didn't like to listen to women singing. Apparently, he helped Joan Baez with this record, at least a little bit. This record to me can be described with one word, which is moving. It's a record that makes me very emotional. Yeah, I'm very in my fields when I listen to it, but it is beautiful. For me, Joan Baez has her voice I could just get lost in, honestly. She's amazing. And then the last record up here is Abraxas by Santana. What an insanely great album, honestly. Another one with a great picture on the inside. This was Santana's second album and the first one that reached #1. Their first album had just come out a year prior, which I always thought was interesting because they played Woodstock and then like a week after their first album was released, and then very shortly after they released their first album. And I think not only their performance at Woodstock, but generally their kind of music was very new and it definitely took off. This was before they went that very jazz-inspired direction with their like 72, 73 records. But I really think that this is a record worth listening to. I think when we talk about prog rock, which this can be put into, but I know that people get a little iffy about that. But generally, a lot of rock fans that I meet haven't listened to this record, and I don't know why. It's a shame, because this is one of the greatest rock albums, I believe. Like, to me, and I know that this has also inspired a bunch of people, it's such an amazing album. Make sure to listen to it. It's on Spotify, of course. But it's just simply amazing. Honestly, the way that Santana makes music is one of a kind. Okay, moving on to all the records that were in this cabinet. Let's start with this one. This is another one that my son adores. Golden Hour of Donovan. I adore Donovan too. What a melodic god he is, honestly. So beautiful, the way that he plays the guitar. It's just so dreamy. Sometimes I just lug into them because I know that this one, just because I want to see if they may still have a price. They don't. Oh, they also, oh, I didn't know this, but looking at the backside, apparently that Golden Hour is like a series that they did, because there's also the Golden Hour of the Kings, the Golden Hour of Scottish favorites, the Golden Hour of Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck. So maybe I need to look into that a little more. Anyway, this one has his greatest hits. Some of my favorites, like The Ballad of Geraldine, are on this. Catch the Wind, of course, which is a very popular one. I'll try for the Sun. All the amazing songs. This, once again, is just a very soft record. Donovan, Cat Stevens, these are also musicians I love to listen to in the morning. This picture of the Mamas and the Papas is one of my favorite. I think it is so cool. The way that they're dressed is like so casual. I love how John and Michelle are so kind of like laid back dressed, and then Danny and Kaz are out in their like psychedelic kind of look. That's so cool. And then on the back side, just, I don't want to talk too much about the songs on this because it's simply the greatest hits, but one thing that I want to talk about is this Michelle Phillips outfit on the back side, because this is one that she wore pregnant, and it's one that I recreated for my Recreating Pregnancy picture series. I'm gonna put that up here if I find it. But yeah, it's a dreamy little tune, and the Mamas and the Papas will now forever have a special place in my heart, because when I gave birth to my son, we played this in the hospital. They like had a Bluetooth speaker and they were like connected, and my partner connected it, and he was like, what do you want to listen to? And I was like, I have no idea, I couldn't focus to that extent. And so he put on the Mamas and the Papas, and we ended up listening over and over for hours and hours, and it was great. It was the perfect music to give birth to, honestly. Next up, The Beatles in Hamburg. What a phenomenal record. A very early on Beatles record. It has Ain't She Sweet, Cry for a Shadow, My Bonnie. It's so funny. This is what the original pressing apparently looked like. The Beatles in Hamburg. Is what it was actually titled. It's the picture from A Hard Day's Night with Patty. But yeah, this has, I actually made an entire video on the Beatles in Hamburg. I'm gonna link that here because I visited Hamburg, and because I know Hamburg a little bit, I took you around, showed you all the places. Make sure to check that out. This is a good record, and I love the picture. Obviously, this was before Ringo joined, but look at these three dressed all up like little teddy boys. It's so funny. It's a good record. Next up, Star Collection, Arlo Guthrie. Another one that I love, another one that is good for the mornings. You might come to the conclusion, and this is very true, I just like a more acoustic, melodic kind of sound in the morning. I definitely bought this myself, doesn't have a price anymore. This has songs like Now and Then, John Looked Down, Try Me One More Time. It's a very nice record. I think Arlo Guthrie is very well known, so I'm not gonna get too much into that. But honestly, it's a dreamy little record. Next up, as said, Greta Van Fleet. I have quite a few records. This one is Anthem of the Peaceful Army. This too has like a little, I don't want to say booklet because it's basically just this like one page with their lyrics. My favorite one on this record is probably maybe You're the One, Anthem, or also When the Curtain Falls. I cannot put it down, honestly. But Greta Van Fleet Fleet is phenomenal. They were really highly inspired by Led Zeppelin. They said that this was just the band that they used to listen to when growing up. Greta Van Fleet, it's three brothers, twins, their younger brother and their friend. And like the three brothers used to listen to a lot of Led Zeppelin, and I believe their friend probably too. And Robert Plant, actually, there's this clip of Robert Plant talking about them, saying, oh yeah, they sound kind of like us, but in a very admirable way. I feel like they don't rip off that kind of music, they just take inspiration from it, which is beautiful. Next up, also from my boyfriend's dad's record collection. I feel like I need to speed this up, or otherwise this video is going to be hours long. This is the John Lennon collection. Give Peace a Chance, Dream, Mind Games, Love, War's Over, everything on here. Imagine, Woman, Beautiful Boy, which is probably my favorite track. Yeah, nice little record. Next up, another David Bowie. This is Changes, very nicely made. I think my boyfriend's sister hung these records on her wall, which is why some of them are quite damaged. This one has a nail still in it. Wow, I never realized that. Good that no one hurt themselves, because sometimes I like lay them down. This is a 1990 pressing, Space Oddity, Starman. I don't have to go into what's on David Bowie's Changes. I think people will probably know. But yeah, I love that. And I'm kind of concerned that there was a nail in there the entire time. How do I get it out? Because it's like in the inside. That's something I need to figure out later. I'm just gonna put that to the side. Next up, another Beatles one. The Beatles Golden Hits, 20 Golden Hits. It has their most popular hits. Not a lot to say about it. It has Help, Paperback Writer, all the classics basically. So yeah, I don't think there's like too much to say about this. Next up, I have another Santana one. This is top groups of pop music, another sampler. Santana. This has a lot of the Abraxas songs, but also some extras. This one I also got gifted. It's a good one. As I said, I'm just gonna like keep going now. This is a funny one. It's called I Like It #1 Oldies, but this little bit down here, this logo, tells you that this was actually gifted and like given out to people by a bank in Germany. No clue why they did it. Probably some sort of advertising. Yeah, this has some Deep Purple, some ELO, some Donovan, Santana, Lola by the Kings. A pretty nice collection of songs. I love The Who. I have Pinball Wizard. Oh, I just realized I have more records over there. I'm gonna grab them in a second. We're gonna end with these. But this is the best of the last 10 years. The Who, from 1964 to 1974. This too is from my boyfriend's dad. Cool little opener. This has, of course, their greatest hits. My Generation, Magic Bus, I'm Free, Pictures of Lily, Doctor, Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere. Not gonna get too much into this. Maybe we'll talk a little more in depth about Tommy by The Who, because I have that, and that's like a pretty special album to me. Next up, another one with a special price sticker that I just hate when they do it. This is the best of Eric Clapton, and it has great songs. After Midnight, Tell the Truth, Bell Bottom Blues, Layla, Blues Power. Yeah, it's a good one. Another sampler. Not a lot to say about this. This next one I actually have a lot to say about. This is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I actually put this on my story on Instagram a while back, and a lot of people didn't know this, which I had no clue that this isn't wildly popular, because I had known this since I was like a teenager. My dad introduced me to this as well, and we even went to like a live show of this. The music is phenomenal. The story is so great. Basically, it's like this very trippy kind of musical about two young people wanting to get married, and they want to go visit the professor in which class they met, just to tell him that they now are going to get married. And on their way there, their car breaks down, and they just go to the nearest place by, which is this old castle, and it has like a bunch of weird people living in there. Yeah, I don't want to take too much away. If you've never heard of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, listen to it, watch it, do whatever you want, but don't let this pass by, honestly. If you don't know what it is, listen to it, watch it. It's phenomenal. It will change your life a little bit at least. Next up is a Cosmic Dancer by T-Rex and Mark Bolan. I'm a huge T-Rex fan. What a phenomenal music. Also, Mark Bolan, just such a cool person. I love the inside here. It's like this little rundown of all the interesting things, their entire history and everything. I actually have a picture from this shoot framed over there. You just gotta love T-Rex, honestly, they're incredible. This has Oh Baby, The Wizard, Desmania, Cosmic Dancer, of course, Telegram Sam, which is another great one. What I love about T-Rex music is how unique it is, basically. I think there aren't a lot of bands, especially in that time, that had this kind of sound. It's definitely kind of like a Bowie-esque kind of music, but very unique and dreamy. I have the same record twice, not completely the same. This one I bought, and then this one is for my boyfriend's dad's collection. It's the Easy Rider soundtrack. I'm just gonna show you this one because it's the more exciting pressing, to be honest. This is music from the soundtrack of Easy Rider. So I used to work in the movie industry, and I know a whole lot about Easy Rider. So Easy Rider is so well known because it started the new generation Hollywood, which basically, before Easy Rider, most films, kind of like all movies that were made in Hollywood, were huge studio productions. And what Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda did was to make a movie that was completely different. So not only was this completely shot on the road, they also did something that they came to regret later, which is they never really had a screenplay and it didn't really go anywhere. This entire movie is such a cultural phenomenon because it is so weird, it is so out there, it doesn't really follow a story. But it is very interesting for the time because basically it's about these two guys riding around America on their motorcycles, and they are very much bringing like the hippie movement. They're bringing this feeling of change to a lot of places where that change wasn't really felt before. So for example, they're staying with like a family and they're still very classic in this like 50s, 60s household tradition, and they're like breaking out. So I don't want to take too much away of this. The soundtrack of this movie is phenomenal. One more thing before we move on. Jack Nicholson had his big break in, of course, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but also this one was like a big one for him. It's an insane movie. The making was absolutely out there. If you're interested in movies and like the 60s and 70s and new generation Hollywood, new wave Hollywood, make sure to look a little into the making of this film. It's wild. But the soundtrack features the Jimi Hendrix Experience, The Byrds, Steppenwolf, Roger McGuinn, Fraternity of Men, The Electric Prunes, The Holly Model Rounders. And I think what's so interesting about the soundtrack of this movie is that it is such modern music. Like, it's kind of taking away from that very classic Hollywood idea of having an orchestra do the soundtrack for a movie. It's just everything that was popular on the charts back then, which is kind of cool actually. Oh, next up, I think we'll have a few records, and I'm not gonna say a lot about these, but my boyfriend loves classic music, so this is Beethoven. Not gonna say much about it because it's not kind of my music. Sometimes I like to listen to it, but for the most part, I don't really spin that. Cat Stevens, I love the record design. I love that Cat Stevens took this approach of putting art on his covers and not just like pictures of himself. It has a picture of him in the back, but a very artsy one that I love too. This was written while he was on bed rest. Cat Stevens had to be on bed rest for an entire year, and this is where he wrote this album. It's a lot more, like a little darker, especially in comparison to his follow-up album T for Tillerman, which was his big commercial break. I think this only peaked at like number 8. However, I love this record. It is so well put together, so well written. It makes you kind of forget where you are and what you're doing, and you just want to listen to this music because it is beautiful. Next up, I have Son of a Preacher Man by Dusty Springfield. What a phenomenal record this is. I was introduced to Dusty Springfield, like probably a lot of people my age, through Pulp Fiction. There's this scene with Uma Thurman where this song is playing, Son of a Preacher Man. It is so good. But Dusty Springfield, is like the embodiment of the swinging 60s with her parasite blonde hair and the kind of look that she wore. But one thing that I find really interesting about her is that she, just like Leslie Gore, which I think a lot of people don't know either, they're both kind of were very open about the fact that they were homosexuals. So they were both lesbians and didn't really hold back. I mean, obviously it wasn't really publicly discussed, but she lived with a woman, and so probably they said that they were roommates or something. But I think that that's quite interesting because I feel like her music was very well known in the 60s, and I think a lot of more conservative people liked it because it wasn't like very sexual or explicit, especially compared to the Rolling Stones or something. But then the idea that she was a lesbian is just so cool to me. She's honestly so amazing, such a beautiful voice, such an incredible album. As said, Son of a Preacher Man is probably her most famous one. It's a very soul meets pop kind of album. It was released in December of '68 and it has great songs. If you only know Son of a Preacher Man by her, listen to this record. It also has 24 Hours from Tulsa, which I think is such a good song. Anyone who had a heart, Sunny, so many good tunes. Don't sleep on Dusty Springfield, people, she's great. We have another Greta Van Fleet album in the mix. This was Greta Van Fleet's second studio album, and it also won them a Grammy for Best Rock Record, for Best Rock Album, which I think is quite cool actually. Yeah, Safari Song is on here, which is one of their most popular ones, as well as Highway Tune. I really love Flower Power and Edge of Darkness, but my favorite one on here is A Change Is Gonna Come. That's like such a phenomenal record. The singer Josh, his voice is so hard to be described. It's definitely kind of like, you can hear how it is inspired by Robert Plant, but it's just impressive to me how one can have such a voice and use it as well and as skilled as he does. So honestly, the fact that they are also so young, I think they were like in their, if they had reached 20, I don't know if all of them even were 20 when this record came out, but for people in their like early 20s, I think they're around my age, this is an incredibly impressive record. Next up is New Generation by Sweet Nothing. This is actually a record I got gifted by Sweet Nothing, a band that you should check out if you like 70s rock mainly. Make sure to check them out. Next up, I have America, including their hit A Horse with No Name, which is a great tune. My favorite one is And Will Forever Be Sister Golden Hair by them, because it is just so phenomenal. This is like the song I want to dance to all summer long. But generally, it's a good record. There are great songs on here. Unfortunately for me, this doesn't even have Sister Golden Hair, but it has some other good tunes like A Horse with No Name, Riverside, Sandman. America is a funny band because they're like American and British, and they all met because their dads were in the US Air Force and they were all stationed in London. So yeah, that's how they met, and they made this incredible record and a few more really good ones. If you like very melodic kind of 60s folk music, check them out. Next up, this isn't 60s or 70s or inspired, it is the Twin Peaks soundtrack. Twin Peaks is probably my all-time favorite TV show. I love David Lynch, everything about them, every movie he made, absolutely everything, the way that his mind works. But Twin Peaks for me is one of the most amazing TV shows and like bits of film, movie, on-screen things basically ever made. The characters are amazing, the storyline is so good, and I think it does a good job of portraying teenagers that isn't very corny. So when I watched this for the first time, I was a teenager and I felt kind of understood. It wasn't like the way that teenagers are often portrayed when older white men write screenplays. And also, it is so far out. David Lynch, he has his very own sense and style and everything. He's incredible, and the music is phenomenal. The actors are absolutely amazing. Honestly, you need to check this out. Twin Peaks was released in 1989 and it's just so amazing, and to me it's like a timeless classic. You could watch this over and over. It's just simply phenomenal. I don't know what to say about this other than watch it. The music is kind of creepy. I could not listen to this being home alone at night, but I love to listen to it, especially when I work. We have another one of my boyfriend's classic records, a Mozart one. Next up, Gold and Diamonds, the Bee Gees. I have to be quite honest, the Bee Gees aren't usually up my sleeve. The Bee Gees aren't really up my alley because it's like a little too disco for my taste. However, they made some great songs. Obviously, there's no denying that they made some amazing tunes. Oh wow, it's so reflective and shiny. I think it's like the golden tarnishing on this record. Look at this picture back there. Honestly, like their fashion is like top-notch 70s fashion. This was also $3. Has like a little sleeve in here. My battery died again. I don't know at which point it died, but I think that's all I have to say on the Gold and Diamond Bee Gees album. Next up, we're coming closer to like the finish line. It's like this stack that we have left. First of all, the Beatles, the White Album. I have the Prince hung over there. As said, it's hard for me to choose a favorite Beatles album, but this one is a high contender because it is just so amazing. This even like has another little poster. I didn't hang this yet. I think I might do at one point because honestly it's a great poster that it comes with. This one I think I got from my dad as well. Must have been. I just looked in here and it is stamped with a name and an address, and I know who it is, and it's not my dad, it's my dad's best friend. They have been best friends since primary school. So apparently it belongs to my dad's best friend, who's like an excessive record collector, and apparently he started young. But I know that he at one point did like a calculation if he would start to listen to an album a day, if he could make it to his record collection before he dies, because he's like in his 50s, and I think they calculated for if he like makes it up to 90 and he wasn't able to go through the entire collection. So I think it is okay if I keep that. If he wants it back, I have it. I think I need to tell him that. Next up, Beethoven, Mozart, some more of those. Another Best of Donovan. I think I said the other one I got gifted. This one I bought myself, $2. Catch the Wind Colors. It has a lot of the same songs as the other one. I honestly love that Donovan, and I think what's so cute about this picture and the cute fact about Donovan is this guitar that he had with all the golden stars. I think it's so cool, like the entire idea of customizing your guitar with like so many easy ways. And look at his fashion, this like ruffly blouse. What an insanely cool man Donovan was, honestly. Jersey Thursdays on here. Yeah, I could talk about him forever and ever because I love him dearly, but we're just gonna keep it going because this video is going to be hours long. I have Wings Greatest here, also from my boyfriend's dad. This has Another Day, Let Him In, My Love, Jet, just a bunch of the classics. Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey from Ram, Hi Hi Hi, with a nice little picture of Linda and Paul on the back side. For a long time I was kind of torn on Wings because I am a big lover of the Beatles, and then after they broke up, I mean obviously they went their solo directions. The first solo direction that I truly fell in love with is George Harrison's, and I think his post-Beatles music is still my favorite, but Paul McCartney made some amazing music, and what really inspired me to look into Wings was the story about his wife Linda and how much this man was in love with his wife. And she obviously passed quite young and it's quite tragic, but what an insane story. They moved to the countryside, they did their thing, and I think that Linda is someone very inspiring to me because she wanted to be a photographer and people didn't really want her to be that, but she, with all the strength and all the compassion that she had, fought for it and ended up being an insanely well photographer. She really fought to get a chance. She was able to live her dream because she never gave up, which I think is very inspiring. Next up I have the Beach Boys, Surfing USA. I love the Beach Boys. This kind of music, obviously like this California rock, they pretty much invented it. This is another one that my son loves. Original release date 1976, so this isn't an original pressing. This has Surfing USA, Alana, Surf Jam. I think it's a very well-known record, but the Beach Boys were very influential in 60s music in general, but especially in the US, of course. Popular. They're most well known for their insane harmonies. They just sound so amazing together. They always boost my mood with their beautiful music. There was an American, I think, history professor who said that one thing that the Beach Boys did that is very interesting is that they kind of took rock music away from its root and gave them like this melodic kind of new direction, and he said the only other album that does that is Rubber Soul by the Beatles, which I thought was interesting to kind of also make that connection. So I definitely have to read into that a little more because I don't recall all the details on that, but I thought it was very interesting. Next up, another non-60s and 70s record, Florence and the Machine Lungs. I saw them live at the Sziget Festival in Hungary in 2018, 2019. I don't quite recall it. I got this gifted by my godmother and her husband, who is my dad's best friend, who the Beatles album belongs to now that I know, the White Album. It's a dreamy red vinyl record. Florence and the Machine's music is just so insanely beautiful. I love it, honestly. It's like true art to me. What a beautiful music, and I sometimes get asked what kind of music I like that is in 60s and 70s. This kind of music, for example, Florence and the Machine. And just while I'm at it, I've also really been loving Boy Genius lately. The melody, it kind of reminds me a little of the Dixie Chicks, and I think what they're doing is very interesting with like these harmonies, but then also being influenced and taking inspiration from rock songs. It's just amazing, honestly. Their music is great. So is this record. We have 2 more records and then we're done. The first one, Greatest Hits by Neil Diamond. Sweet Caroline, I think is his most popular song. I love this picture back here. He's like smiling, so cute. Neil Diamond is one of the best and most selling musicians of all time, which I think is very well deserved because his music is wonderful. It is kind of light-hearted, it always puts you in a good mood. Next up, and last but not least, is Status Quo's Na Na Na. I think what's really cool about Status Quo is that they're still a band. They have been together since the 60s. They're still making music together. They obviously had an immaculate sense of fashion too. Yeah, I think they're also quite popular, and I honestly don't have that much to say about this record. I don't have like any special connection to it. It's from my boyfriend's stat collection as well, but I really like to listen to them. And this is one that my boyfriend really much loves. So that is it. These are all the records. Oh no, it's not. Hold up. As said, Pinball Wizard that has a special place in my heart. That's right over there. 2 more singles also over there. I'm quickly gonna get that, talk about those, and then we made it through. Okay, I don't even know how many people are still watching at this point. 2 more singles, The Mamas and the Papas, Monday Monday, and Got a Feeling. This one was also $3, and I also love that picture of them in the bathtub. The sun is coming in quite nicely now. Yeah, The Mamas and the Papas we talked about before, so I'm not gonna say more. And then I have Je t'aime moi non plus by Jane Birkin, who sadly passed away last year, which made me so sad whenever someone dies of this like 60s and 70s kind of music, movement, and all of that. It makes me realize how time has changed in a good way and a bad way. And yeah, for some reason it made me very sentimental. But this is her dreamy song, Je t'aime moi non plus, with Serge Gainsbourg, and then it also has James B on the B-side. Jane Birkin, she's such an insanely amazing woman. I made a few videos on her, I'm just gonna link some here. Serge Gainsbourg is the one I knew before I knew her because my dad is a big fan. He loves to listen to his kind of music, but obviously Jane Birkin is kind of like the face of a very special kind of 60s, not only time but also style. She was amazing, and I think her music career is often looked over because of her really successful modeling career, but I do think she has a dreamy voice. I love that kind of chanson style of music that she makes. So yeah, what a great little single this is. Last but not least, I said I wanted to talk about this album because this is so special to me. So basically there's this scene in Almost Famous, and there's this young boy, his sister just left their very conservative household, and she left him a stack of records, and on this one there's a little note, and the note says, "Listen to Tommy with a candle burning and you will see your entire future." This is such an interesting and insane record. This is a rock opera, so basically it's telling you a story, and it is made by The Who, one of my all-time favorite bands. The lyrics are so insane. It's kind of like a record that, and like a play that it tells you, like the story. It's very out there, it takes you a little to understand, but this record has a very dear place in my heart because I think that Almost Famous line is so true. Like, this record tells you a lot about yourself and makes you feel so many things by listening to it, and it kind of changed my outlook on life, and I don't know if it was what's on the record or if it is what I went through imagining and kind of going through in my head while listening to this record. So all I can advise you to do is to listen to this record while burning a candle. And you might not see your entire future, but you will have quite the experience, let me tell you that. So on this note, let's just end this video. It is so long, my throat is done. I want to thank you for watching this video. It was quite long, I know, but it was very well requested. I said I'm not a pro, all that I told you is just all that I know. So if anything was wrong, don't pin me on that. But yeah, thank you for watching. I really enjoyed sharing my collection with you. I hope you have a beautiful day. Please leave a comment down below which is your favorite record, and if you have any recommendations, because I always love to listen to new music. And if you have anything to say about any of these records or everything that we want to say, just put it in the comments. I would love to have a conversation with you. I hope you have a beautiful day. Go out, enjoy the sunshine, take yourself some time to focus on you and your mental health today, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye everybody.